Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to share with you my 3 simple steps how I find my priorities as a busy mom. My goal is to live intentionally, to live effectively and efficiently for God's kingdom and the calling that He's called me to and the roles He's called me to and the purpose He has for my life. And in order to do that, I need to know what my priorities are and I need to know what my intentions for my day are, no matter how sidetracked I can get, no matter how derailed the day becomes. This is an easy way for me to know what to focus on when and determine the most important things within those roles that God's called me to. I just want to share with you my 3 simple steps to find your priorities with you today because I have found them to be so helpful for me to gain clarity on what I should do next. I know we've heard it before, there's a whole song about it, just do the next right thing, and yet I feel like sometimes it's difficult to know what the next right thing is. And if we haven't clearly defined our priorities and our goals and our intentions with our life, we can just be lost in the mundane and the overwhelm of all the myriad tasks that we have in front of us every day. You throw in a fussy baby or a clingy, needy toddler in there and all the other busyness of being a mom, whether your kids are in school all day or not, whether you homeschool, there's just a lot on our plates and a lot to keep track of. And so when you do have an opening of time or space that miraculously happens, it's really easy to use it in a distracted way and not actually with intention like you would like to do. I believe that happens because we don't have a clear vision and a clear focus of what we want to use our time for. And I know this has been my struggle, and it still is my struggle. If I get distracted by busy work because I don't know what to do, it's because I haven't clearly remembered what my priorities are. Now, most of us like to create a to-do list every day. We set out with intentions for the day of all the things that we want to accomplish, just start checking off the first item on the list and moving our way down. But it can also be a struggle because the first thing on the list just might not be the most important thing. The most important thing on our list might be the one on the bottom. But how do we know what's important? How do we know what's urgent? How do we know which tasks should take priority? That was something that I struggled with for a long time, until I came across Brian Tracy's ABCD. I've taken his method and I've simplified it into 3 questions that I feel like have clarified for me as a mom what I should be doing next, what I should be focusing on first, and what I should move on to next in my list. So before you can define your priorities, you need to define your roles and your goals within those roles. That's a fun little pun there. You got some goals in those roles. I know I have some goals for my roles. I don't know about you. That's a whole nother video entirely. The definition of what we feel our calling is important to define because a lot of us wear many hats and a lot of us wear different hats. Some of us are homeschooling moms, some of us aren't. Some of us work in our homes, some of us don't work in our homes, some of us work outside of our homes. As any mom in any situation, it's important to categorize what our roles are and what are our goals inside of those roles. For me, especially, it helps me to clarify that relationships are my top priority. But that doesn't mean I'm going to necessarily spend 24/7 with my children. There are other responsibilities that I have that I need to do. And yet I also know I can't just put laundry at the very bottom of my list. It is one of my goals to maintain an orderly home for the care of my family. I can't just bump everything that's my least favorite chore or task to the bottom of that list. I'm gonna need to prioritize things that are important, whether I like them or not, and things that are important to me for my goals and my relationships as well, and not just task driven, if that makes sense. So on my blog, you're gonna find a printout that you can print to help you clarify a little bit what I'm talking about here. So spend some time with a notebook and write down what you believe your calling is. What roles has God given you in your life? What hats do you wear? And within those hats, what are your primary goals? Because once you have those established, then you have a clear vision of how you can determine with 3 easy and simple steps what your priorities in any given moment are. So coming up next, I'm gonna walk you through. So the Brian Tracy method is called the ABCDE method. And it's also referred to, if you've heard it before, kind of the slogan, eat the frog, because you eat the frog first thing in the day and you've done the hardest and the most important thing, you've got it out of the way and you don't have to think about it again. Now that might work for some people, great if it works for you. It doesn't work for me, but I literally can't always begin my day doing the most important, biggest task. I might wake up to kids that are hungry and I'm right out of the gate making breakfast, getting little kids fed, and those are important to my goals as well. But we can clarify a little bit deeper how to define our goals and what we can move to next, especially as busy moms, how to bounce back and forth between our more important tasks and our less important tasks. And so I'm going to give you the step-by-step. What I have come up with is 3 simple questions to ask yourself. And I have a printout on my blog if you want to check that out at alegacyanddays.com. You can easily click on this diagram and have it right in front of you, as well as a sheet to write your own tasks that fit in each category. So you might want to begin, when you make your list of priorities, defining which tasks go in by category instead of just by menial task. For example, you want to put laundry on there, but you don't need to say like washing my laundry, the kids' laundry, all my rags, all my towels. Like each one of those doesn't have to be a task. You can make it more complicated than it needs to be. The first question you're going to ask is, does this task move me towards my long-term goals? The second question is, does this task have negative consequences if I do not do it? For example, some of our cleaning and decluttering, right? We maybe don't want to do it. It might not be something that moves us towards our long-term goal, but it needs to be done. It has negative consequences if it's not done. Does filling out paperwork for your business or your child's school activity move you towards your long-term goals? Maybe not. But will there be negative consequences if it doesn't happen? Yes. The third question you're going to ask is, can this be delegated? Once you get to this question, after you've moved through the other 2, you're going to know this needs to be taken off my list completely. So let's go through this real quick. If something is very important to you and it moves you towards your long-term goals, if it also will have negative consequences if it's not done, and it can't be delegated, that is how to determine it is an A task, and that should go on your A list, which means top priority. For example, in my list, reading my Bible and exercising goes on that list, as well as connecting with my husband and cultivating relationships with my children. They move me towards my long-term goals. I really believe there is negative consequences if I push them off, and no one else can do it, just me. There's quite a few other things that can fit in the category of A tasks, but every day I don't have A tasks written on there. I just need to know when they are on there within that framework, they need to go on the A list and be top priority. B tasks are tasks that don't move you towards your long-term goals, but they have negative consequences if you don't complete them, and nobody else can do them. Simple as that. It's just going to be you. If someone else can do them, for example, your husband or your child might be able to fill out that form for you. Move it off your task list and give it to them. Then C tasks are defined as, do they move you towards your long-term goals? Yes. Do they have negative consequences if you don't do them? No, not necessarily. Can they be delegated? Can someone else take care of this? Nope, just you. That is a C task. C tasks are the tasks that can feel like A tasks. They can feel like they are top priority because I know they move me towards my long-term goals. How I determine that they are not an A task is there is not going to be negative consequences if I don't do them. There's not going to be negative consequences if I don't do some creative thing with my kiddos, right? But they do move me towards my long-term goals. I need to understand that's going to have to come further down on the list in priority than my A tasks will. My C tasks are important for my long-term goals. For example, personal development is important to me. Reading quality books, self-education, fun activities as a family, outings, whatnot, time with friends. They're important for my long-term goals, but they don't necessarily have a negative consequence if I don't do them. Some D tasks are tasks that don't move you towards your long-term goals. They don't have negative consequences if you don't do them, and they can't be delegated. They're only what you can do. For example, hobbies that are fun, that don't have long-term negative effects if you don't do them. I like to sew, but it's not that important to me for my long-term goals. It's just something that I like to enjoy. I really enjoy painting. There's a lot of things that I'm the only person that can do them, and they're fun and they're enjoyable, and yet they don't move me towards my long-term goals necessarily, and they don't have negative consequences if I don't do them. It's not a big deal. And yet I do want to include D tasks on my list. So now let's talk about how to frame a really great day, how to make these lists apply so that your to-do list for your day is more clear and more easily defined, especially for we busy moms that are very scattered. I have a couple of tips for you. So your daily to-do list, you're gonna want to just write down everything in your mind that you feel like needs to happen today. Not next week, not next month, right now, today. And then you're gonna wanna look at those and ask yourself the questions. Does this move me towards my long-term goals? Does it have negative consequences if I don't do it? And can it be delegated? So you can define A to D. Then you're gonna wanna circle all your A tasks, keeping it hopefully to about 3, and including some D tasks on your list. If you have a list that is all A tasks, more than 3, you should really move some of those to a different day, if at all possible. Also, try to move through your list A, most important A tasks, B, C, D. I really believe it's important to do some B tasks, some C tasks, and some D tasks every day. It'll help us keep a more rounded and balanced life, especially for we mamas where it can feel like everything is urgent. Everything is not urgent. It is important to include tasks that are not absolutely necessary for you to do so you can feel like a whole person at the end of the day. And it's important to do things that move you forward towards your long-term goals and don't just feel urgent. Some tasks that fit within those frameworks are cleaning out the fridge, sewing, spending some time with your kids, reading a book, exercising, connecting with your hubby, running errands. Those are a lot of things that we do throughout the day, but knowing which ones are more important really gives us clarity in the moment, what we should do when. So here's how I determine what to do when. I cannot wake up in the morning and start with my A tasks and be able to move clearly through to my D tasks. It just doesn't happen that way. My kiddos need me. There's urgent tasks that come up, like making breakfast and getting little kids ready to go head out the door or whatever is needed that day. Start school, do school with the kids. But what I look at is I determine, I have a moment, what can I do next? I always am going to start with an A task until I have accomplished at least the most important A task of the day. Then maybe I have a baby who's fussy, she's in the carrier. I can't work out right now, but I could do a B or a C task. I'm going to go ahead and do those B and C tasks. Maybe I have all of my kids asleep and I have this open hour of time and I feel like, wow, this is amazing. I just want to sit and watch Netflix because my mind feels overwhelmed with a busy morning. I'm actually going to look at my list and see, are there any A or B tasks to do? No, I've already done them. So what are some C and D tasks that I should be working on? Maybe I need to be working on those B tasks. So it just gives me more clarity to determine how to use my time intentionally, efficiently, and effectively. I hope this video has helped you. If it has, please give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments what things were the most helpful, what you'd like to see more of. Be sure to grab that free printable worksheet on my blog, legacyanddays.com, so you can figure out and hone in on your priorities. Hope you have a great day, and I will see you in my next video.